Coming up today, we have some beautiful scenery, ticking off bucket list items, and also a bit of a chat about what happens when things don't quite go to plan. Hello and welcome to The View From Here, or welcome back. Flying over the Andes from Lima in Peru, I could tell that I was in for a treat. First stop on our trip was Cuzco for a few days. We were going there to acclimatise to the high altitude before we headed off on our hike. Cuzco was a really cool place. It was full of people and music and shopping and really good food, and I just had such a good time wandering around there. Even though from the start I could tell I was going to struggle a little bit with the altitude. Up to that point, I'd been taking altitude tablets that I'd got from my doctor for about 3 days. What I did when I got to Cuzco, I stopped taking these tablets. I'd originally been given the advice to take them for 3 days, and then once I arrived in Cuzco, because my body would be adapting naturally, I could stop taking them. In hindsight, this was my first big mistake. I definitely advise going to your own doctor before heading to a high altitude place like Cuzco in Peru. But in this case, I wish I had have sought a second opinion. Even walking around the street and doing the few hikes that we did, the short walks up and to see the views here, I was struggling already. Next stop was Ollantaytambo. Along the way, we made some new friends and saw some beautiful local people making their products, selling their goods. It was a really nice behind the scenes look and just a bit of downtime before we started more intense hiking. Once again, walking around the streets was really fun, and we did a few short walks just to try and help us acclimatise to the altitude, even though we were slightly lower than in Cuzco. Once again, I really wasn't feeling this great, but just tried to put it aside and just get on with it. A few people in my group headed out for an extra walk in the afternoon. I just went back to my room. By this point, I was really struggling. I was feeling really tired, out of breath. As you can see by my smile, also really excited to be there and to get going, but really not feeling that great. The views were absolutely stunning. Everywhere you looked like a postcard. Layers and layers of mountains. And as you can see, the sky was blue and the weather was perfect. Ollantaytambo was a really sweet town. I enjoyed being there. After a really rough night, I didn't sleep much. I really wasn't feeling very well. We headed to the start of the Camino Inca Trail. This was the main point of my trip, and I was so excited to get going. I had mentioned to my guide that I didn't feel very well, and she told me a few things I could do to try and help feel better. But even the fact that I hadn't slept, I really just didn't feel in good shape to be hiking. Once again, though, I was overtaken by the stunning views and the fact that I'd worked really hard and trained really hard to get to Peru. I'd done so much training to try and get my body strong so that I could easily tackle the 4 days on the Inca Trail to get to the end goal of Machu Picchu. Unfortunately, after another tough night, the next day I decided I had no other option other than to stop and to go back down to Ollantaytambo. I was in a really bad state by this point and just really not feeling good at all and really disheartened that my hike was going to come to an end. After I got back down to Ollantaytambo, I spent a day in hospital and then 3 days in bed recovering. After this, I felt good. I felt ready to meet up with my group again back at Machu Picchu. They were almost at the end of the Inca Trail and getting to the main goal of the hike. Unfortunately, I did have to take the train, which wasn't my first option, but as you can see, it was a beautiful journey from Ollantaytambo to Machu Picchu itself. I still enjoyed the scenery, and feeling a little weak but much better, the train was definitely a better option for me at this point. Waiting for the rest of my group to arrive, I went into Machu Picchu, started taking the photos of the beautiful scenery. This is, after all, why I'd come to Peru. This is what I'd trained for. It was not the way that I expected to arrive, on a train and then a bus up to the monument, but nevertheless, I still enjoyed the incredible views. I wondered, how do they get all these buildings up into the mountains like this? Everything was done by hand. I just couldn't believe that all this time ago, in such a remote area, they'd managed to build this. I still can't to this day get my brain around how they did all this. It was another stunning day, and I walked around the monument enjoying the scenery, taking in the beautiful fresh air and the amazing weather once again. I was really disappointed that I hadn't come into Machu Picchu along the Inca Trail with my group. And still to this day, I'm disappointed and wish that I had been able to complete the hike. I still know though that at the time I was in a really bad place physically, as well as not adapting to the altitude. I also got salmonella poisoning from some eggs that I ate trying to up my protein before I headed off on the hike. When I was in hospital, I was in a really bad way and I was really dehydrated and ill. And I just wanted to include this photo too. This is called it No Thank You. Walking around, I still got to see all the same sights as my group had. I eventually joined up with them and we enjoyed the tour together. I've thought many times about whether I'd go back to complete the hike, and I'm still not entirely sure. What do you think? Do you think I should do it? Or do you think I should just be happy that I got to see Machu Picchu in all its glory? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. Goodbye for today, and thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video.